No, I won't be playing in that fixture. Yeah, it sounds like a great game. It is going to be a great game, really intriguing on a lot of different fronts. We just had a great discussion with it beforehand around how it can look and who's going to play and everything like that. What do I know? Well, I've played the Lions before. I know that they're a week out from a 3-game test series and it's getting pointy on that tour. And you've got probably a fully fit starting team who's going to play against the Wallabies a week later, chomping at the bit, battle-hardened. And I looked at myself and I thought, well, I've had a good time in Japan. They pour a good acai, they make a nice rice ball at the local conveni. I'm about 8 weeks, 10 weeks out of being battle-hardened in not a test environment. So I'd have to come home now, train by myself, maybe try and get a run for Manly, which would have been cool as well. But come up against those guys in a team that you pull together for a week. And as a young guy, perhaps 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years ago, oh my God, how good. As, you know, almost 34-year-old who made a fleeting comeback, no, it didn't sound like a game that would be a fairy tale ending for me. Not that I was ever after a fairy tale ending, but a game that wouldn't give me, you know, any different to... I've had so lucky with my career and everything like that, that I didn't need this to be that type of a moment. So it was an easy decision. I think it'd be great to see an up-and-coming player who could come up and play, or, you know, someone else, who misses out on the Wallaby squad, or a great New Zealand player to fill that role. I think that's something really exciting for that game. But yeah, no, it wasn't going to be, unfortunately.
What do you think the focus should be on that game, mate? Because we were talking, and now we're on camera, we'll talk about, it seemed to me, and both of us agreed that it's a great opportunity to have a marquee game in amongst some high-powered provincial games and some high-powered test matches, to have a marquee celebratory game about this thing called rugby and the global attraction, therefore getting the biggest names possible was one of the discussions, right? And then also having... a performance factor for player retention, or say Pete Samu playing in those sorts of games. That had merit, didn't it?
Well, I think Pete Samu's probably in both categories. Yeah, a guy coming back in Australia, but also a household name who's played a lot of Wallaby games and, just been a part of a winning team. So even if he wasn't coming back to Australia, can you include him? Yeah. I would have liked to have seen the absolute, and this is the discussion over what best is, but I'd like to see the biggest names who are available be able to play. And I think that's what this game should lend itself to. I think, I'd like to see that it be, we're going to try and get everyone we possibly can, the biggest names who are currently available to come and play, or let's utilise this as Australia A game, essentially, with a sprinkling of Kiwi. So just to have real clear direction on what this game is. So, the team's probably going to get released. It's great. I mean, the coaching staff's rock solid. I was up with Ian Foster up in Japan, and he's an amazing coach, really good fella, and I think whoever's involved in that, it's going to get a really nice touch of a bit of Australian and Kiwi flavour there. So no, I would have loved to have seen it be Australian, New Zealand, Barbarians team, who's available. The trouble is trying to make it all work for people in the calendar. How far, like I mentioned, around the length and the layover between games for some people. Some guys are coming to the back end of the season. Maybe they don't want to just keep training for another 8 weeks because it's a daunting task, like I say. So, yeah, very interesting. I mean, you had a bit of a different take on it around your thoughts.
I guess that notion of best player, right? It's because the other thing is New Zealand All Blacks have a tour that they're engaged in, and also the Maoris. So you're sort of down a few rungs on the notion of who decides best and how you do that, or is it not a development, but is it a best of Super Rugby Pacific, for instance, who are just out of those test squads, and so a lot will hinge on who Joe Schmidt releases too, as well. How big's his squad? How much cottonwood does he put them in? Is that team actually given a bit of a prerogative to maybe have a red hot crack at the British and Irish Lions to soften them up a bit as well tactically for Australia? I mean, let's not forget, there's 3 test series, the biggest 3 test series that we're going to have outside the World Cups landing in 2027. We want to win that, right? So we want to sort of climb into this British and Irish Lions squad every time we get a chance to as well.
Yeah, of course. I think invitational teams lend itself to some superstar status. You've got to have those names to make people... Everyone's excited about the Lions series anyway. You've got these 2 standalone games that you're trying to engage the public in. they need superstars like you, to be honest, Hoops. And I was surprised that you didn't. Did it make a difference that they took so long to announce the coaches and we still got uncertainty over who's playing for each team? If they had come to you earlier and said, this is the coaching team, we want you to be involved, could that have swayed you?
No.
Okay.
Simply no, because the common sense of knowing what it takes to perform at that level, it's a personal decision that goes, oh, well, I don't think I could have performed how I want to perform at that level at that time with the layover, with everything considered at this point in my career. It just didn't seem like a good decision. You know, for other players, could it have garnered or snowballed a bit? You go, oh my God, that guy's playing, that guy's playing, that guy's playing. How can I miss out on this? And that's kind of what happens with Barbarians, you know, with the Barbarians matches. You like start to get a bit of a snowball on who's putting their hand up and you go, geez, that's got to be a team I've got to be a part of. So, you know, maybe that could have been a thing done earlier, but as we know, there's 3 tests that they got to get right, which creates a lot of work. Then you've got to try and max out the super games, and these ones are probably tagged on the end and maybe thought of a bit last minute.
What's the atmosphere or the appetite for it from your experience playing with, training with, conversing with the Kiwi guys that are in Japan? Like Richie Mo'unga is a name that has been mentioned plenty of times. He's got an injury, which he carried into the final of the Japanese League on the weekend. Pato was on the show and mentioned TJ Perinara, Shannon Frizzell, Sean Stevenson. You know, 3 of those guys are all playing in Japan. Is the appetite still there that we've heard throughout the year?
I think the appetite's there when you start hearing other people are keen. And when you start hearing other people are pulling out, what happens there? Oh, he's pulling out? Yeah, actually, I don't want to train for 8 weeks to only get myself injured.
Aaron Smith has reportedly withdrawn himself. Is that going to affect someone like a Mo'unga, do you think, putting his hand up if he's injury-free?
Look, I think all these guys are their own men and they'll make the decision that, but can you get influenced and is there an element of peer pressure? Yeah, like that's what, that's what it's about. And particularly those type of invitational games, there's got to be an element of fun for a player to want to come and play that. Yeah, Aaron Smith and I, we're in the same team and got along really well, and you get a chance to play alongside. Like, hearing a Richie Mo'unga's keen, okay, that could be really great to play in. And then, some other players, and you go, I can't miss this game. But I don't know where that lands right now.